Good afternoon, Southwest Florida. This is Mark Stowe. How's everybody? I think you're all in listen mode, so you can't answer, but I know you're there. Ladies and gentlemen, our presenter today is for our exclusive Southwest Florida training is Jeremy Walsh. He's the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect Worldwide. Jeremy keeps the BNI Connect project focused and moving forward in a positive and supportive fashion. Since they implemented a comprehensive support strategy and help desk in 2011, the BNI Connect support team now provides 24/5 coverage for support questions and issues globally, with 98% of inquiries being responded to within 1 business day and 82% of all tickets resolved within 1 hour of receipt. So far, the team has responded to over 49,000 inquiries from members and directors worldwide. The online self-help forums on the support website average over 40,000 hits per month, with a comprehensive library of hundreds of articles, visual guides, and training materials. Jeremy presents live training on a monthly basis with hundreds of how-to videos available on the BNI Connect Global YouTube channel. Today he's going to present to the Southwest Florida team the online renewal process. We let people do this a year ago and work the kinks out, and now we're stepping in. It should be very simple. Jeremy's secret to success is to make sure that every person he works with believes that their issue is the most important one in the world and that they are the only one he is dealing with at that exact moment. Please welcome Jeremy Walsh.
Thank you so much, Mark and Andrea. It's great to be here today. As Mark already said, we're going to be going over the online renewal process today. And this is, again, this is something that was first implemented worldwide. It became available in November of last year. And since then, we had some places that turned it on the minute it was ready to go, and some places that are coming into it now. And since then, we've learned some little tips and tricks that I'm going to pass along to you guys as well. But all in all, it is a very easy process, and I'm going to show you guys how that works, both from a member perspective and from a leadership team perspective, because there's really 2 different parts to this process. But we'll see live, I'll demonstrate live both sides of the equation here. Just a little bit more housekeeping before we get started. This is a live presentation, so that means I'm really here, I'm really talking. This is not a recording. If you have any questions, either as we're going through, if you need clarification on something, or we will reserve a bunch of time at the end as well, feel free to ask those questions. The best way to do that is to type the question into the question panel. We don't have the ability right now to open up everybody's microphone, so the best way to ask those questions, again, is to type it in. I'll see those pop up on my screen, and I'll either answer them as we're going through the material, or I can answer it towards the end. The second piece of this is that we are recording this webinar. So if there's other members of your leadership team that are unavailable today, Mark will have a copy of this as well as the PowerPoint presentation that he'll be able to distribute and share with any of your other team members. All right, so without further ado, let's get started with the online renewals. So this process, it's really the same as the paper process has always been, and that is that a member needs to complete a renewal application. Then the second part of that is that the membership committee has to get together. They have to talk about this renewal application, and they need to decide whether or not this application is approved. And then finally, the office receives the money and they say, yes, this one is all set to go and the process is complete. Now the difference is that now this is going to happen online through BNI Connect. Now, one of the biggest advantages to this is that it is much easier to chase somebody with an electronic renewal than it is to chase after them for a paper renewal. Now, Mark, I'm not sure if this happens in Southwest Florida or not, but it's happened once or twice up here in Rhode Island where, you give out that renewal application, 60, 90 days before their renewal, say, okay, you're going to be coming up for renewal, make sure you fill this application out and bring it back to the membership committee or the secretary treasurer. And a week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, 3 weeks goes by, and they haven't turned over that application yet, that renewal yet. So you're like, okay, well, we really need that renewal. Can you turn it in next week? Oh, you know what? I filled it out. I forgot it. It's sitting on my desk. No problem, just bring it in next week. And another week goes by, and up here in Rhode Island, again, I don't know if it happens all over the rest of the world, but we do have some members that really only think about BNI for that 90 minutes that they're at the meeting. So, they never offer, oh, well, I'll drive that application over to your office and drop it off. It's just, I'll bring it next week. And then all of a sudden next week turns into next month, turns into 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks later. With an online renewal process, all you have to do is say, just go online and do this. Or, you know what, I brought my laptop with me. Here, fill out your renewal right now. Also gives the opportunity to pay for it right then and there instead of chasing down a paper check. Now, let's take a look at how this process works from a member perspective. And again, if you have ever filled out an online form before, or you've ever paid for anything online, this process should be pretty straightforward and common to everybody. In BNI Connect, there are 4 different ways that a member can start the online application, and they all lead to the same place. The first of which is that members get a renewal reminder email saying, hey, you're due to renew. Would you like to start that process now? And in that renewal reminder, they click the link, and it takes them to the renewal application. One thing to keep in mind is that the renewal application is on the inside of BNI Connect, so it's in the members only portion of BNI Connect. That means that members do have to have a valid login to get into BNI Connect, but since everybody's doing all the online slips and everything anyway, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. But if anybody is struggling with that, just have them email us, support@bniconnect.com, or submit a support ticket, and we will get them logged into BNI Connect right away for you. Now, the second way is that we are going to put a Renew Now link on your regional website. So they'll be able to click right from there. So let's say they didn't get the reminder email, the spam filter ate it, or they had the wrong email address in the system, whatever it might be. There's always the Renew Now link that is in this, that'll be on the regional website as well. Now, the third way is that once they're logged into BNI Connect, every single time they log in, they will see a button right there that says Renew Now. And finally, if they're in their profile, editing it or updating their My BNI business or anything like that, there's also a link there that allows them to click the Renew Now button. So let's take a look at what some of these look like. The first of which is, this is what a typical renewal reminder will look like. And you'll see that there's a link there on the left-hand side, it says Renew Now. And there's a link on the bottom. That will take you to the renewal application. On your regional website, this is just a couple of examples out there. We can see that in Minnesota, they use a blue link. In the Heartland region, they use a red link. And in the Arizona region, they use a square one. But they all pretty much say Renew Now. Now, once Mark and Andrea and I decide on which format they like and what color to make it and what font and all that, we will get that put up onto the BNI SWFL site as well. But let's take a look. I'm going to log in as a member, and let's look at this to see what it looks like when a member is doing this. So I have a test region up in Antarctica filled with a bunch of members up there that I can play with and not affect anybody's real membership. So let me log in as one of those members. One of those members up there, it's Ricky Martin. So let me log in as Ricky Martin. And he's one of my stellar members up in the Burr chapter in Antarctica. Now, let's say that Ricky, he wants to renew. So he could, as I said before, he could click on the regional website. He could click on the link that came in the email. But as soon as Ricky logs in, he'll see right up here in the top portion, there is a button that says Renew Now. Now, if he was in his profile, updating his profile, or if he goes to Options, My Account, either of those two places, there is also a place right here that shows Renew Now. No matter where I click, it all brings me to the same place. And that same place is the renewal application. Now, keep in mind, this is my Antarctica region. We have some pretty low fees up there because half the time the penguins want to pay in fish anyway. But we have the option for a 1-year or a 2-year renewal, and the fees will change automatically. The other thing to keep in mind is if a member is late Now, I'm sure you've never had this happen in your region, but a member is late and they're required to pay the late fee. Well, are they late when they turn it in, or when it, what if they had the application in but they forgot to check, and so on and so forth? That will all be automatic here in BNI Connect. The minute that they are late, it will automatically incur a late fee. Now, down below, you do have to answer a bunch of questions. Again, these are some test questions here in Antarctica, but anything with a red asterisk is required. So you do have to answer those questions. Would you like to serve on the leadership team? Which are you interested in? Do you belong to other referral groups? All of those questions. They're pretty standard questions. Now, during this process, you'll see that there's a thing here that says check and update your member details. This does give a member the opportunity at this point to take a look at their profile. And if they need to make any changes to these things, they do have the opportunity to do that right now. Now, keep in mind, it also includes adding details to the profession or specialty or product service description. Now, I know this is going to make a lot of people panic, but don't. If they do make changes here, like I add a product service description, it will throw a giant red flag on this. There's really no way to miss it. You'll get an email letting you know exactly what changes were made so that you pay special attention to this one when it comes to the approval portion. When they're done making those changes, you do have to accept the same terms for participating in BNI and the general policies. And after you have done that, you will be allowed to proceed to payment. Once you're at the payment screen, again, just like any other system where you've ever paid for anything online, you can type your credit card information in, or you can choose an offline payment method such as check. So I can either choose check. It'll give me instructions on what to do with the check. In Antarctica, we ask people to hand deliver it, and if not, ask for Steve. In Florida, you guys will have your own method for dealing with the checks, which I believe will involve the Secretary-Treasurer. Or I can go to the online card payment. By the way, if somebody bails out of this and closes or goes back home during the payment portion, the renewal application will remain submitted. They do not have to complete the renewal application again, but they will have to complete payment at some point. All right, I'm going to pay by check and give it to Steve. And it lets me know that my membership committee has now been notified, and they will contact me once a decision has been made. And from a member perspective, that's it. That's all you have to do. I mean, I was dragging that process out, and it still only took me about 3 minutes to go through it. Most members, they should be able to complete that in about 60 seconds. It's really a straightforward application process. You will notice that the Renew Now button has gone away while it's pending. But once that has been fully reconciled and everything is all set, that renew button would come back. I could renew again if I wanted to. All right, and that is the member process in BNI Connect. Do we have any basic questions or quick questions on how that works for members? Please feel free to type those questions in now, and I'd be happy to answer those. All right, I think Mark says he has a question. And Jody has a question. So Mark says, what if they don't pay? So a couple of things happen. If they choose the offline payment method, in other words, they choose the check method, they do have to register that they're going to pay by check. So they still have to complete that part of it, at which point they do need to hand over a check to the Secretary-Treasurer at the next meeting. Now, that being said, if you end up having to chase them for that, that's really no different than it works now, as long as that payment's been registered in BNI Connect. As far as a credit card goes, if for some reason they bailed out of that process, so let's say they go through the whole process, they complete their application, they get to that payment screen, say, no, I don't want to pay yet, then they could theoretically close out of that window. At that point, the Renew Now button would still be here, and they would have to click it again to complete that renewal process. Now, at that point, once they've submitted the application, the membership committee can still work on the approval process, and if they haven't paid still by the time they get approved, they will get an email saying, all right, you've been approved, please pay now. Does that make sense, Mark? Does that help? Jody says these features are not currently enabled, ? And that is correct. They are not currently enabled. They will be enabled in a few days, at which point these will start to process electronically. Mark says, do they get a receipt? And yes, they do get a receipt. Tammy says, what happens if they renew and pay and the membership committee decides they do not want to approve the member? Will they be refunded? Yes, they will be refunded. They are asked to make the payment up front. If they are declined, then the regional office, if they paid by credit card, will refund that money. Rob said, so will this go live for us on the 1st of October? What happens if you are on the executive and don't pay for the year? So if you are on the, yes, this will be going live on October 1st or tomorrow. And if you are on the executive committee, then you are correct. Your dues are waived during that part, during the time that you're serving, and you do not have to do a renewal during that time period. So you won't be reminded to renew or anything like that. Can the receipt be mailed to the membership committee? And no, the receipt is not mailed to the membership committee. So the secretary treasurers, they will get notified of an offline payment, but they do not get a copy of the actual receipt. All right. Cool. I think that was the last question for this part of it. And if so, I will move on to the next part. All right, so next part of this. Well, again, just to review the member part, member completes the application, they choose a payment method, and there are a bunch of emails that get sent. I will show you a full spreadsheet flow chart of all of the emails towards the end of the presentation, if that's okay. But basically every step of the process, a notification goes out. All right, so let's look at this from a leadership team perspective. When it comes to renewals, every online renewal must be also approved online in BNI Connect. Online renewal has to be online approved. Now, if there are still circumstances and cases where you'll be doing a paper renewal for whatever reason, that will be up to Mark in your region if you guys are going to be doing that. However, those ones do not get approved online. Only the online renewals get approved online. There's 3 different levels of the approval process. You can either fully approve it, just a normal everyday approval. The second type is a conditional approval. Now, a conditional approval basically means that the member is approved kind of on probation, that you've had maybe disagreements in the membership committee, or you agreed that, yeah, we're kind of renewing them reluctantly. What exactly that means is up to you. That's up to your region. That's up to discussion with Mark and with your director consultant. All that BNI Connect does is put a flag on the profile that says, duly noted that this person was approved in a conditional manner. But following through that with that is an offline process. And the final way is that a member can be denied. So you can decline a renewal. It happened, for better or for worse, somebody in my chapter was just declined. So in that case, when we get to it, I'll show you, but it's more of a notification process happens amongst the team. The member is not notified of this decline. That has to happen through the membership committee control letter process, not through BNI Connect. So that is an offline process again when somebody is denied. And then the final thing that you need to know is that your regional office cannot do their step until you have done your step. So they cannot mark the money as having been received and fully activate that renewal until you've done your approval. So keep that in mind. So looking at the approval process, there's really 2 different ways that you can perform this approval. The first of which is as soon as a member inputs an application, you will get an email. So the membership committee and the leadership team get an email saying, congratulations, somebody has just submitted an application. This is great news. Would you like to go ahead and start the approval process now? And in that email, there is a link that brings you right to the place where you need to do the approval. Now, the second way is that let's say that you don't get that email, or you missed it, or you accidentally deleted it, or the spam filter ate it, or the dog ate it, whatever might have happened to it. You can always go into the system and go into the pending applications and review all of the pending applications, take care of whichever ones need to be taken care of, and also look at the process, especially if it's for the Secretary Treasurers, if you're making sure that the check made it up to the office. Once the office has received that check, then they'll disappear from that pending applications list. So let's take a look. How does this work for the membership committee and for the vice president? Let me log back in. So I have a membership committee person, Albert Camus. He's one of the great philosophers out there. And we're going to log in as Albert here. And Albert is on the membership committee, and he needs to go in and review Ricky Martin's pending application. So the way he does that is by going to Operations, and then under Manage Memberships, there's an option that says View Pending Applications. So again, Operations, Manage Memberships, View Pending Applications. Now, once we get here, we will see all of the renewals that are pending. Right now, there's only the one, and we can see that it was an online renewal, what the application date was, the amount, the status, and we have an option to approve it. If I click this Approve button here, this is what it will bring me to. It says it lets me know that Ricky Martin from the Byrd chapter, he submitted it. He was due for renewal on the August 1st. I can click this PDF icon here to review the full application. It will open this up in PDF format. At this point, if you want to save this for whatever reason to your chapter library or chapter box, you can do that, but it does give you the answers to all of their questions and a bunch of other information. And this also has basically the payment receipt in here as well. So we can also look at their performance. And here's what I was talking about earlier. Because Ricky Martin made changes, there is a big warning here that it was submitted with changes, and there's also an email detailing those changes. We can look at their performance. Now, Ricky in the last 6 months has only been to 3 meetings, only has received 1 referral, but hasn't even given any. I can take a look at his training details here by clicking on this link. It'll bring me to his profile. I have a feeling I'm going to be pretty disappointed in Mr. Martin here, and he hasn't even taken his member success program yet. He has no recommendations, he hasn't filled out his bio, and he really hasn't filled out much of his profile there either. Now, at this point, if you are the vice president, you have the option here to approve or decline this member. If you are on the membership committee, you won't see these buttons. You will only have the top half of this information. Again, this isn't a voting process. That's something that you have to keep in mind in BNI Connect. We are not registering votes. All we're doing is putting in the final decision by the vice president. So as part of that, the person that's registering this decision needs to confirm and certify under penalty of lashing that all necessary membership performance reviews and discussions have taken place. Without that, they do not have the options to continue, but they have to certify that those meetings took place. Here's where I said that you can choose whether or not this is a conditional approval. You can also flag on there whether or not control letters have been sent already. This will not send the letters. Again, this is just recording that you have done the action. And then you make your decision. You can either approve or decline. Now, even though his performance is not all that great, I am going to go ahead and approve Ricky anyway. And from here, we can now see that the voting buttons or the registration buttons for the approval have gone away. I can click the back button now and go back to the View Pending Applications. We can now see that the approval button or the little arrow that was over there is no longer there. If I need to review anything, I can click on the status there. I could also click on the word renewal, and that would take me into the application to review it as well. And that, my friends, is the renewal and approval process. So just to review, the membership committee does need to go in and review. You guys have to have your membership committee meeting in order to proceed to the next step, which is that the leadership team person, usually it's going to be the vice president, goes in and does the actual approval. So they record the final decision of the membership committee. And then finally, the region can review that information and perform a reconciliation. If there is one that is declined and it needs to be overturned, only the regional office can do that. All right, so questions. We have a couple of questions coming in. Let's see. Jody says, what is a control email? It was an option at the bottom of the approval screen. The control emails are the control letters. So if you're going to be declining somebody, denying somebody their renewal, you do need to use the BNI control letter, letting them know that they've been declined, as well as inform that member. BNI Connect will not inform the member for you. That has to happen through the control letters and the membership committee process. So does that make sense, Jody? Tammy says, this is only used on renewals, not brand new members. That is 100% correct. This is only for renewals. Brand new members are still using the paper application at this point in time. Just so you know, that is coming at some point. One of the things that that's a challenge is that we do need to keep these kind of behind locked doors, so to speak. We need to keep the application in a private area. So coming up with a method to allow essentially visitors or non-members to get to a secure location to fill out that form is something that we're working on and hoping to have in the future. All right, hopefully that answers your question there. And let's see, Mark says, if the person doing the renewal had changed something like his classification that was not approved by the membership committee, would they decline conditionally approve? And what if they ultimately approve under the old classification? How does it get changed back? Yes, and here's something to keep in mind. This is really done to protect the integrity of the application. Once that application is submitted, nothing on it can be changed. Not by the member, not by the membership committee, not by the LT, not by Mark Stowe, not by myself, not by Ivan Meisner. It is a locked form at that point. So if there's something that you disagree with, they change their classification and you don't agree with that. Let's say that they put in for a 2-year renewal and you only want to approve them for a 1-year renewal. In all of those cases, it has to be declined. You're denying that particular application. Doesn't mean you hate the member. It just means that there's something wrong with that application and you'd like them to resubmit a new one without changing their classification, or with only 1 year instead of 2 year, or vice versa. So does that make sense? Mark, does that answer your question? All right, now you would decline it. It will sit and decline the office. So Mark, Andrea, this is for you guys. You will need to go in and void that application, knowing that it's declined, and then the member will be able to submit a new one. All right, so you will have to have some communication with the office, but there's an automated email that goes out as part of that. Christy says, is there a way for the Secretary Treasurer to indicate payment has been received if paying by check? No, there is not at this time. Marnie says, what if the member changed their category, but we want to change it back? I think I answered that one. If you have additional questions, Marnie, just let me know. Robert says, could this be available someday for new members? And yes, that is absolutely very high on the wish/priority list. So it is definitely something that is being strongly considered, as it would ease the application process all around the world. So definitely something we are looking into for hopefully the near future. All right. Any other questions on the leadership team side of that process? All right. So let me just go through real quick all of the email notifications. As promised, there is a whole mess of emails that goes through. There's 3 different parts: prior to renewal, during the renewal, and then after the renewal. So prior to renewal, there is 4 different emails that could go out. The first of which is that there is a renewal notification that goes to the membership committee, which will give you the list of people that are due in 90 days. That one goes to the director consultant, to the vice president, secretary, treasurer, and the membership committee. Typically that goes out 90 days before renewal. Mark, correct me if it's something different in your area. The member also receives a 60-day reminder. Again, by default it's 60 days, but it may be slightly different in your region, and only the member gets that one. Now, as part of that renewal process, and within that email that they receive, there is, we hide it in like 4-point font in white coloring at the bottom of the email behind other text, but there is an option that says, would you like to opt out? I'm just kidding, of course. It is, just in there and part of the regular text that says, I would like to opt out of the renewal at this time. If they choose to opt out, a couple of things. You will get an email letting you know that they have made this decision. However, it does not drop them. Especially if they're getting this and making that decision 60 days before the end of their membership, they still have paid for the rest of their time. They can continue out. Maybe they're moving in 60 days and they'd still like to go through the rest of it. They're just letting you know that they opted out. The other thing to keep in mind is that that opt out is also a great way to follow up with that person and say, hey, why are you opting out of a renewal? And there may be some people that are just on the fence, that you just might need to talk to them in order to get them to go through with the renewal. They just would like to see that somebody cares. Now, the next part is during the online renewal. So once the renewal is submitted, the member will get a copy of their application. They'll also get a receipt if they paid online. If they opted to pay in an offline method, let's say by check, then the regional office, the director, and the leadership team will get a notification about that. They will also get a notification just when it has been input, and a third notification if they made any changes, such as changing their category, and it will detail those changes. So it will show you what it was before and what it was after. And then after the online renewal, after they've been approved, the member will be notified again saying, hey, congratulations, you have been approved. Enjoy the next year. Then they will also get if they hadn't paid, so if they opted out of paying, they closed out of the window, they would then get a reminder saying, you've been approved, now please pay. There's also an announcement on renewal that goes out to the basically to the whole team, the regional office, the director, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and membership committee about that renewal. And the same thing goes if it is declined. And finally, this is the exact same information. All I did was put it under, you can take a look at your position and figure out which emails you should be expecting during this process. For example, the president is going to get the opt-out, the offline payment, the payment received, the approve, and the decline. So the ones that get the most number of emails during this process are really the vice president and the secretary treasurers. And again, I'm happy to forward a copy of this to Mark, and Mark can then send this out if he would like to anybody that would like a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. And that, my friends, is the renewal process in BNI Connect. Again, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy, and I'd like to open this up for questions. And Mark, if there's anything that you'd like to add at this time, I invite you to do so as well.
Thank you, Jeremy. No, I think you cleared it up pretty well. It looks like a simple process. I think what we didn't tell people is they did turn it on a year ago, and some people didn't get any training, and it worked perfectly without any training. So now at least we know more than they did, and we appreciate your time today just for Southwest Florida. And if you want to answer any further questions, that'd be great, but thank you so much.
Yep, my absolute pleasure. I'm not seeing any additional questions popping in. Just a thank you from Robert and a great job from Scott. Thank you from Ruben. So I appreciate you guys all being here and taking time out of your busy days and your busy schedules to really invest in the success of your chapter and invest in the success of your region. So thank you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting, everyone.